I have been told to cover my body so that I don't distract men from their prayers. I've been told it's about respect. But at what point does tradition stop being sacred and start being unquestioned control? So, if you haven't realized it by now, patriarchy lives within most spiritual spaces. And there's a very clear difference between reverence and repression. However, sometimes the two get mixed up together. And why, as a woman, am I responsible for a man's inability or unwillingness to control his desire and his focus? I believe it's time we start asking men to take responsibility for their desire and distraction, rather than putting that onus on women. So, at the risk of being labeled difficult for asking these questions, I'm asking these questions. I think they're really important to ask because I think it's important to observe the fact that patriarchal ideas exist even within our most sacred spaces, or what we consider our most sacred spaces. And I personally have never been okay with the answer, well, it's just tradition. It's just what we do. It's tradition, so we do it. To me, that's like a parent saying, in answer to a child's question, well, because I told you so. I'm the parent because I told you so. Okay, that doesn't really help. That doesn't really help me understand the why. And I think a big part of this wild wisdom way for me is getting curious about the why, like what's actually underneath some of our tendencies, our patterns, what's underneath it all. I'm asking why. And I'm not really getting a response that adds up to anything meaningful. What I'm hearing, really, what I'm hearing is most people are uncomfortable with the female form. And men are not yet willing to take responsibility for their own distractions, their own desire, and their own feelings around the female form. They're not yet fully willing to take responsibility for that. And so the onus is on the women. We've all heard the stories when someone complains about rape or sexual abuse. And some of the questions that woman gets asked include, how were you dressed? Were you dressed like you wanted it? Which is simply insinuating that if a woman reveals any part of her female form or dresses in a way that isn't fully covered, that she is now responsible for what happens to her from another person. I don't think men carry that same weight of responsibility. If a man gets attacked, do we ask that man, yeah, but what were you wearing? Were you showing your shoulders? You wanted it. We don't do that. And so to me, it's fucking ridiculous. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous that the onus has been put on women.